All of you know I'm Dr. Ross. I'm the clinic director here. There's 3 doctors here. I'm sure you've met all of them. They're all fantastic, or else they wouldn't be here. So hopefully they're all taking good care of you. And a lot of you in here are patients of mine. The paradigm that we teach here is how to be successful in your lifestyle. All right. A lot of our health is contributed to the way that we live our lives on a day-to-day basis. It is a journey. It's not a sprint. All right. I don't expect the things that we teach for you to know, because a lot of you have never been taught this before, nor do I expect you to change overnight. But you guys should have a conscious awareness of the big picture, the big why of why we do this, so you can start implementing. Because if the why is big enough, the reasoning behind it is big enough, you will change habits, strategies to get a better outcome, I promise you. The thing that gets in the way is that our butts are too big. All right? Dr. Ross, I know, but I have X excuse. I got kids, I got a job, I got a career. You know, I hear all of the buts, all right? So I'm here to minimize the buts and increase the why, all right? So the paradigm where you should spend every day some sort of strategies, time, energy, and resources on mental health, how to think well, nutrition, how to eat well, and how to exercise, how to move well. The nexus in the middle, where all those things line up congruently, is where your potential is. That's where health lives. That's where opportunity lives when it comes to your health. Now, some of you might be really good in one area versus the other. That does not count. All right, you have to be sufficient and pure in all 3. All right, because I know some of you, and I kind of encounter this with a lot of my patients. They're really good at exercising. They have a great, regimen and discipline, and they might be really, really good at nutrition, but they have a tremendous amount of stress in their life. And they don't know how to either manage it or have strategies around it. And this equation does not work. All right, you have to have all 3 components. All right. Obviously tonight we're going to focus on the nutrition part. Well, there will be some overlap, as you can see, into how it affects exercise as well. But the core of this is definitely nutrition. So one of the quotes I love is, if you want to be well, you must do what well people do. All right. A lot of our strategies always come from strategies that always tell us on how to treat a certain thing, right? You get diabetes, there's a certain diet for that, right? You're overweight, there's a certain diet. How many have heard diets, partial to some sort of labeled disease, right? If you have, ADD, this is a certain way to eat, right? I'm telling you, this is based on genetic congruency on what our body needs in terms of diet. All right, it's if you guys know me, any of you know me, you know that I love research. I love analytics. I love things that are backed up with research. All right, and that's what I'm going to show you tonight. Things that are congruent to what our body needs in terms of purity and sufficiency. All right. Now, a lot of you have heard fad diets that tell you crazy things to do. Right, eat all the fat you want, and you'll still lose weight, right? You hear these fad diets that are usually meant to lose weight quickly, all right? I'll tell you right now that there is no quick way to lose weight. There's no healthy way to lose weight quickly. It has to be done in a very monotonous and slow way, because most of you gained weight slowly. You do not gain it overnight, so don't expect to lose it overnight, all right? So we hear crazy things like, eat as much as you want, eat as many carbohydrates you want, eat as much fat as you want, don't count your calories, drink as much as you want, all right? I'm going to put a little twist on this. You can eat as much plant food as you want, all right? Eat more quality carbohydrates, more essential fats, eat more nutrient-dense calories, and drink more water. And when I tell you that, it's because we have a certain goal. We have a certain outcome on how we want to do this. And it's for progression, meaning that we want to increase function. We want to increase quality of life. It's not that we're going to do this for 7 days, 21 days, or 30 days, and then we go back to the way we were eating before. That is not the goal here. The goal is to constantly progress our education and strategies when it comes to nutrition, because it's a dynamic thing. You can always improve upon it every single day. So this is not for any particular treatment of any type of disease, but guess what? You eat in a very genetic congruent way, what do you think your susceptibility to disease is going to happen? It's going to decrease, right? And we'll talk about some statistics as well. So the biggest lesson that we'll talk about when we get to the actual strategies is we're going to talk about adding things first. All right, a lot of you have heard always to take away, subtract first, but I'm telling you, we're going to talk about what are the things that you need to add. All right, because if you add the good stuff first, what do you think innately, naturally you're gonna stop doing? You're gonna stop eating the bad stuff. All right. So the key is always to add the good stuff first, and that's going to be actually step one, which we'll talk about. We'll also talk about essentials in terms of what supplementation should be that we should be taking. That it's very hard to get in our culture just through food. I really do think that we do need supplementation on an everyday basis because our just through industrialized farming and how we harvest food, our foods are not as nutrient dense as they were a generation ago, nor the generation prior to that. All right. We'll talk about genetic congruent style and then vital behaviors. You know, and when I say vital behaviors, because we have this philosophy that, you know, if you had a mother or a father that's overweight, that you have a genetic propensity to be overweight as well. All right. And a lot of people believe that you know they got the fat gene. All right. I'm telling you, there is no fat gene. All right. You do fat. All right. Your lifestyle does fat. All right. You're not genetically made to be overweight. So when we talk about genetic congruency in foods that our body needs, you know, you have to go back to the hunting and gatherer lifestyle that we had before, all right, where food wasn't milled, it wasn't processed, it wasn't boxed, it wasn't packaged, all right, it was eaten in its most rawest forms, all right, it was very organic, all right, they're not genetically modified, all right. Who here knows about the percentage of the foods that we buy in a supermarket that are genetically modified, GMO foods? What do you think? What do you think the percentage of the foods that in a normal grocery store that we buy that are genetically modified today? 70. It's about 70%. All right. So that means that the seed itself that it's grown from has been genetically modified either to mature faster, meaning the growth cycle goes faster, to produce bigger products like the actual fruit or vegetable grows bigger than it should, for coloring sometimes. All right. So it's been genetically modified from its natural state. All right. So when we talk about organic foods and why they're important, I mean, they're more towards their original state. Why is that important? Is because then you're not getting the chemicals that are induced in these, especially in the plant-based foods that we see in the grocery store. All right. Some of you are very attracted to the big red shiny apple. All right. But guess what? Not all good apples are red and shiny and perfectly shaped. You know, but that's what, you know, we're used to. So let's get into some of the details. Who here remembers this slide? Anyone remember this from the brief? Okay, we're going to briefly go over this. So a plant food based diet, all right, has been shifted in our culture back in 2010 when Michelle Obama pushed for the CDC to change the recommended diet to the food plate versus the food pyramid. Who here remembers the food pyramid? All right, so the food pyramid tells us that the majority of our servings should come from refined carbohydrates, pastas, cereals, and breads. Okay, who here understands that today that is not a good idea? All right, decades we've done this, and what are the main diseases, chronic lifestyle diseases that this food pyramid has caused us in our culture here in America?
Diabetes. Heart disease.
Diabetes, heart disease, and what's the other one?
Cancer.
Obesity. Yeah, and some cancers, but those are the three big ones: obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. All right. So even logically, we know that this is probably not the best model to follow anymore, right? And in 2010, the CDC adopted the food plate, where now the model is that 50% of your caloric intake every single day should come from a live source, fruits or vegetables. And you should consume them in a 2-to-1 ratio, meaning that for every serving of fruit that you have, you should have 2 servings of vegetables. Why is that important? What are we trying to control? We're trying to sugar, right? So 2 servings to vegetables to 1 serving of fruit. 50% of your calories every day should come from those 2 sources. How many of you are doing that already? Is it easy?
Yeah.
It's difficult. It is very hard to have half of your caloric intake every day to come from fruits and vegetables. It is you literally have to have a conscious effort and to be very disciplined to do that. The other 50% comes from whole grains. Give me an example of a whole grain. Remember, weird people. What do weird people buy? Quinoa, couscous. Yes, weird people. All right. And give me a good example of lean protein.
Peanuts?
Peanuts. What else?
Cashews.
Cashews. All right. Fish. Right. Lean poultry and soy has good protein byproducts as well. All right. So that's what we're talking about. All right. Now I really don't believe dairy needs to be in here because what I'm going to teach you tonight, we eliminate dairy. But you notice that it's outside the plate. What do you think that represents? Why is dairy not on the main plate?
Optional.
It's optional. We don't need it. It's not an essential thing, right? Now a lot of you have been brainwashed over the years that milk does what?
A body good.
Right? See, they taught you well. All right. Why do they tell you milk does a body good? What's the selling factor?
Calcium.
Calcium. Is there a lot of calcium in dairy milk? There is tons of it in dairy milk. All right. The next question that should follow it: how much does the human gut absorb of it? What do you think? It's less than 1%. All right. Not my opinion. This is what your research says. I'm just telling you. All right. Now, we have some of the highest percentages of post-menopausal osteoporotic women here in America. All right. Now we consume some of the most dairy per capita here in America as well. Do you think that if we were the biggest consumers of dairy, that we should have the lowest amounts of osteoporotic women post-menopausal? You think that would be a great outcome if the statistics followed what we're claiming, but it's not. We have some of the highest rates of osteoporotic post-menopausal women here in America. All right. What are the biggest ways that your body, or foods that your body can absorb calcium? What are foods have the highest density of calcium and highest absorption rate? What do you think they are?
Vegetables.
The darker the green vegetable is, the darker the green. Kale, right? Spinach. The more calcium dense, the higher the absorption rate. All right. If you want to save your bones, especially women in the room, all right, the more greens you eat, the better chance you're not going to have osteoporosis or osteopenia. All right. So the food plate. The other reason why this is so good and why we've moved to this is what's called is created non-anti-inflammatory properties in our body. All right. Who here has heard me talk about pH levels of your body? All right. I think it's very important. Your body does, in terms of physiological roles of the immune system, digestion, all right, heart function, it does better when it's slightly alkaline. Our body's pH should be 7.365. All right. Now you might ask, why and how would I ever know what my body's pH level is? This is probably the most dramatic test that you can do to see how well your diet is. All right. If you want to know how good your food you put in your body, test your pH level. I can guarantee you that if you've never done this before, that you have an acidic internal environment. All right. Most people's pHs are usually between 3 and 4, very acidic. Just to give you a little background story, if you remember back in science in high school, 1 through 14 is the pH scale. 1 is acidic, 14 is alkaline, and 7 is neutral. We want to be slightly alkaline. The reason why we want to be slightly alkaline, because that means that our internal environment is in an anti-inflammatory state, meaning that plaquing in your arteries cannot happen when you're slightly alkaline. All right? Viruses, bacteria cannot grow in alkaline environments either. All right? So it helps your immune system. It even helps your gut to digest food when it's slightly alkaline. There are 2 ways you can measure your pH level. You can take litmus paper and test your saliva in the morning when you wake up underneath your tongue before you ever drink water or eat any food. All right? That gives you a roundabout number. It's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty close. If you want a true accuracy, buy a pH kit. You can buy them at any corner Walgreens pharmacy like a CVS, and you test your mid-morning urine. All right? And that will give you a hard number. All right? Who here has ever tested their pH level? All right?
I buy them $13 for a kit off of eBay.
Yeah, it's really inexpensive, but I would recommend, if you've never done it before, this is a good place to start. All right? Because I can almost guarantee you, all of you who've never done it before, you're probably acidic. All right? So, this is our goal is to get to 7.365. All right? Slightly alkaline. If you have kids, this is also important. You can do this with your kids as well. If you want to know how good of food you're putting in your kids' body, test their pH level. You can, and for kids, it's easy just to use their saliva. It's good enough. You don't need an accurate number, but it'll definitely tell you how good of a diet you're feeding your kids. I've been doing this. We've been doing this with our kids since they've been born, testing their saliva. We do it once a month just to make sure that, just so we're on point. Is it always perfect? Absolutely not. I mean, there's some months. What months do you think are the worst?
Christmas.
December, okay, November, and their birthday month.
Halloween.
All right, yeah, all those things, that's where all the acidity comes in. Now, when we talk about acidic foods, you got to remember, it's all the processed stuff. The more processed it is, the more acidic it is, all right? So like alcohol is one of the most acidic things you can put in your body. Even if it's beer, hard liquor, wine, whatever, all right, it's very acidic to your body, all right? Any type of refined carbohydrate is acidic, especially white flour, any bread, cereals, very, very acidic. Because if when they mill the wheat for a lot of these processed foods, they put additives into it. All right, there's colorings in it, there's bleach in there. All right, and then anything like coffee, sodas, all very acidic. Any animal protein. Not as much on the poultry side and fish side, but red meat, one of the most acidic meats you can eat, and pork even worse. All right, all those things have to be eaten in moderation, or you can exclude them entirely and stick with fish and poultry. All right, all the things that are alkaline come from the ground. All right, same idea. The darker the green, the more alkaline it is. All right. And I'll tell you, when people, sometimes I'll ask patients to do food logs, and you look at their food logs, and the biggest thing that's deficient in their diet is greens, all right? I just had a patient recently that they brought her son in because he's hyperactive. And he, in school, just does not sit. He just started kindergarten, very, very hyperactive, all right? So obviously we're doing our part with the chiropractic what we're doing, but also lifestyle-wise, one thing that for sensory, I asked her to do a food log. So she does a food log, and she's got she's definitely got some of the essentials in there. But one thing that was blaringly obvious is that he wasn't eating any greens. Because my kid doesn't eat vegetables. Doesn't matter how he just doesn't eat vegetables. I'm like, your kid doesn't have a say in this at this point. I mean, like, there has to be a way. I'll show you some ways on how to incorporate vegetables into a meal. They did a study. If you ever read the book, I might have mentioned to some of you what's called "Are You Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired?" It's written by Dr. Robert Batman. That is his name, I promise you. And he talks about pH levels and how it creates acidity in your body and disease processes. But one of the studies that they show in the book is that they burn food under a photographic light, and basically how much energy is given off is basically how much energy the food gives you as a person as well, right? You want live food, eat live food. If you want life, eat live food. If you want death, eat dead food. Well, they burn hamburger meat, all right, underneath the light, and that's how much light it emitted, all right. Then they burn the lentil, all right. So we're talking about 37 megahertz versus 150 megahertz, right? So that's what it does to you in terms of an energy standpoint, all right. Just eating more live food. So before we get into the strategies, there's some math that we need to do because you need to know where you are before you find out or figure out where you need to go. So you've probably seen this slide before. The biggest thing you need to know is obviously when it comes to your ideal weight is what's called international or universal language of BMI, body mass index. There's more sophisticated ways that you can get your BMI, but you need to know where you're at. All right. So to figure out your BMI, you need to take your weight in pounds, divided by your height in inches, divided again by your height in inches, and multiply by 703. And it's going to spit out some number with a whole lot of decimal point and a whole lot of numbers after that. You need to be between 20.0 and 24.9 is a healthy BMI. This is not from the CDC. This is according to WHO, the World Health Organization. Meaning that if we were to compare ourselves to other Americans, it's going to skew the results. We were comparing ourselves to international numbers in terms of when we talk about people. But if you're below 20, you're malnourished. I can guarantee you here in America, there's not a whole lot of people like that. All right, but if you're over 25, you're considered overweight. If you're over 30, you're considered obese. All right? Now, in this equation from height, weight, 703, what variable do you have control of? Be careful when you answer. Which one? Your weight, right? So how do you know in this spectrum of 20.0 to 24.9 where you should be? There are three main types of phenotypes. All right, you've probably heard me explain this before. There's the endomorph, mesomorph, and ectomorph. The mesomorph, right? That's the type of person who has broad shoulders, all right, and has to walk sideways through a door, just built like a barrel, all right? The endomorph is the pear-shaped type person, shorter, rounded person, all right? And the ectomorph is the tall, beanstalk, skinny person that never gains a pound, eats whatever they want, and they never gain any weight, all right? You're never just one. There's always a primary and secondary, all right? So you always have a mixture of the two, but you'll definitely have a primary, all right? So if you think your body type is endo or meso, okay, walking sideways or round-shaped type person, you're going to be in the higher end of the spectrum between 23 to 24.9. If you're the tall beanstalk type of body, then you're going to be on the lower end, sub 23. All right. So that's where you need to play to get that number. When you're working with your body weight to get it to the area or the spectrum of where you need to be. If you don't know what your body type is, look at family pictures. And again, if you can't figure it out still, then come ask me. All right. All right. We're all on the same page. Okay, now here, let's talk about this. How many Americans do you think are over 25? Anyone want to take a guess? Okay, this is from the CDC. Let's compare what's happened to our culture over the years. 1988. These are all the states. All right. The ones in blue have are 30 to 35% of the population, adult population, have a BMI of over 25. All right. The ones in red have a BMI of 35% of the population have a BMI of over 25. All right. And you look at that, and in yellows is less than 30%. Do you think it's changed since 1988? Mm-hmm. How much do you think it's changed? Like drastically, a little bit?
Drastically.
Okay, this was pulled from the CDC, 2016. Okay? So that means that over 35% of the population have a BMI of over 25. How much over 35% do you think our adult population have a BMI of over 25? That's just over 35%. What do you think the real number is? Anyone want to take a guess? 77% of adult Americans have a BMI of over 25. All right. What do you think happened? Do you think our genes changed since 1988? Did we grow an extra finger I don't know about? Our genes are the same, right? Do you think our culture changed?
Yeah.
What do you think people are doing more and more?
Fast.
Right? But culturally, what else? What do you think people are doing every day? Right? Right? How much screen time has increased in people's everyday lives? How many hours? Do you know what the average screen time per person in America has?
10,
9 hours a day of screen time. Computer, television, phone, whatever. All right, 9 hours a day average per person. Isn't that crazy? See what's happening? Okay, so let me ask you: if the fish is sick in the fish bowl, what do you do? Wow. So we need just napalm everybody. No, if the fish is sick in the fish bowl, what do we naturally want to do? We change the environment, right? Now let's take a look at our fish bowl. When we're sick, do we change the environment or do we medicate the people? We medicate, right? We don't change them. We never look at it. Maybe we should change the water, right? No, you keep doing what you're doing. We'll just keep medicating you. All right? All right. So we need to get away from that. So, eating like old people do. We talked about the importance of eating more fruits and vegetables, 2-to-1 ratio. It reduces diseases. The biggest ones are going to be, like I said, obesity, heart disease, and obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. All right. Reduce animal proteins. The biggest one we're going to talk about is reducing is beef, red meat. All right. And then reducing caloric intake. 50 calories a day increase from what you should be eating. We'll calculate this later, but just think about this. If you eat 50 calories a day more than what you should, right, you do it every single day, you'll gain 10 pounds by the end of the year. Right, in 5 years, 50 pounds. All right. According to the CDC, after the age of 32, how many pounds does each American gain?
15?
No, not that many. Every year, because what happens to your metabolic rate as you age? So that means you don't burn off calories as quickly. All right. So do you think you should increase your caloric intake as you age or decrease it? Decrease it, right? Because your metabolic rate reduces. All right. But on average, the average adult American gains 2 pounds after the age of 32. All right. So 50 calories per day increase, and we'll talk about what it should be once we get on here. But just think about it. If you just were to reduce 50 calories a day, every single day, you lose 10 pounds by the end of the year. All right? How easy is that? What do you give me something that you think is worth 50 calories. Some of you drink your calories. What do you think you can reduce one a day to get rid of 50 calories in your diet?
Carbs.
Yeah. The cream you put in your coffee, all right, you can reduce 50 calories a day easily, all right? Some of you that go to Starbucks and get these frappuccinos, mochas, latte things, whatever you call them, all right? You make those are calorie dense drinks that you put in your body. It's almost like a full meal for some of those. And then you talk about if you add them up every day, every week, every month, they add up. So the first phase of the 90-day transformation, right? It's going to take 90 days, at least, all right, is to add. We want to add sufficiency and purity to our diet, all right? So that's what I'm going to, and we'll go through some details, all right? We're going to add the good stuff first, all right? What do you think the first thing I'm going to tell you to add? Greens, all right? You want to start adding greens to your diet, all right? The other thing you want to start, we're going to start off slow in the moving phase, and we're just going to, who here has an exercise regimen that you're disciplined that you follow every single week? Does anyone here have something? Okay, if you don't, the first thing we're going to start doing is we're just start walking, all right? We want to accumulate at least, ideally, 10,000 steps a day. What does 10,000 steps equate to? Well, 3 miles a day, all right? Who here has anything that tracks steps?
I used to.
They're so, if you have one of these, a Fitbit, a phone, an Apple Watch, whatever, they're so easy. But you at least want to try to get it to 3 miles a day, 10,000 steps, all right? Very easy. It's almost, it does not take a whole lot of effort, all right? The next thing we're going to do after the next 30 days is we're going to start reducing the bad stuff, all right? What do you think is the biggest thing I'm going to tell you to start reducing that's toxic? Yes, but the acidic food.
What?
The acidic food. All those things you just said. All the acidity stuff, all right?
But if you add the greens and everything, wouldn't that help balance?
It would, absolutely. Yes, it would, all right? But some of you are you guys are so much far right. I'm not talking politics. You guys are so far right, all right, that it's going to take a lot of work to get you over to the left side, all right? So that's what I'm saying. Let's not worry about even eliminating the acidity stuff first. Let's just start adding the greens, all right? And we'll start reducing the acidic stuff, the red meat, the alcohol, the coffee, the processed foods, all right? And then in the third phase, we go to full purity. We're just going to trash bag all the bad stuff. We're just going to get rid of it entirely, all right? So let's start. Okay, so in the weeks 1 through 4, and you guys have in your packets the shopping list for this. You guys have the meal plan for this. You guys have the food list that you should have that are in phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So, water, all right? If you drink water, it will reduce your hunger strikes as well, all right? And guess what water is? It's a buffer, right? It's neutral. It'll help the pH as well. Who here knows, and I've been preaching this for years, what is the equation for proper water intake? What should you be drinking? No. What's that?
The total body weight, half of the body weight counts.
That's right. Yeah, so whatever your body weight is in ounces, in pounds, divide by 2, and that's how many ounces you should drink, right? That's a good rule of thumb. So 100 pounds, 50 ounces a day, all right? 200 pounds, 100 ounces of water a day, all right? Now, does coffee count? No. Does juices count? No. Does alcohol count? No. So if you're going to ask that, the answer is no, all right? A lot of you, and I'm guilty of this as well, all right, is that we don't eat the first meal of the day for satiety, all right? That we don't eat breakfast, and we do better at grazing than big meals, right? We are better off, we genetically do better when we eat small portions more often than eating big meals less often. Make sense? And we'll talk about what a good breakfast is, but the thing with breakfast, one thing that you want to make sure you have in your breakfast is protein, all right? This thing, protein is for repair and energy, all right? And carbohydrates, all right, is more for storage, like gasoline, all right? You really want to make sure that we're eating protein for that energy for your day, and then ideally at the end of the day, you're eating more salads without the protein. And we'll go through ratios of where you should have meat and where you shouldn't have meat. A good way to get a good breakfast, which I have come to make life easier, is juicing, right? Pre-made juices where it has, your kales and your spinach, and you can put berries and bananas in it. And it's just an easy way to get the sufficiency and nutrients and the food that you need in a form of a shake, and you don't have to sit and actually eat a meal. Supplementation. Let's spend a little bit of time on this because this is adding the good stuff. So there's a blanket recommendation that I say that we do not receive in our culture, and when it comes to food, that we all should be getting. One of them is essential fatty acids. These are your omega-3s and omega-6s. All right, there's just no way that you can eat enough fish, enough flaxseed, that you're going to get what you need in terms of essential fatty acids. So this is something that even from medical side to nutritionists that we all agree on, that everyone should be taking an essential fatty acid supplement. As an adult, you should be taking at least 1,200 milligrams a day of an essential fatty acid. If you do not like the source of fish, you don't have to. There are different other ways you can get it. But if you want to talk about quality of the supplement, you can stay later, and I'll talk to you about that. I like plant-based supplement companies. A lot of stuff that you buy off of a shelf at a Walgreens, a Walmart, I would not use, but then again, it's better than nothing. But if you want to talk about, again, quality of supplements, we can talk about that later. But fish oil, 1,200 milligrams. The other one is a lot of us don't spend a whole lot of time outdoors, because where are we? We're in a chair behind a desk, all right? So if you don't spend a whole lot of time outdoors, you have to supplement vitamin D3, okay? Normal intake is anywhere between 800 international units, UI, to 1,000, all right? Now, most of you are deficient in vitamin D3. If you ever do and I recommend this, do an annual blood panel. If you ever have an annual physical, ask them to run your D levels, all right? Because it's an important nutrient that you want to keep track of. Anything over 30 on your blood panel is considered optimal, and I can guarantee you, majority of people do not score over 30. So anywhere from 800 to 1,000 IUs of vitamin D3, and then the other one is probiotic. All right, this helps keep the natural gut flora in your digestive system, helps with your immune system, digestion, and I can tell you, if you ever had who's here has had an antibiotic? Anyone have an antibiotic in their lifetime? That wipes out your gut flora, all right? Antibiotic kills the bacteria, probiotic obviously promotes the growth of healthy bacteria. So everyone, in same with the foods, we just don't get the gut flora that we need. So supplementation of a probiotic is the third one. And then the last one is a full spectrum multi-mineral multivitamin, meaning your essential vitamins and minerals that our body needs every single day. Now again, there is the companies that you hear about, Centrum and One-A-Days. If you see that vitamin D is the first ingredient, vitamin A is the first ingredient in terms of what the supplement is made out of, it's probably trash, all right? Because we have plenty of vitamin A. It's just it's a really cheap filler to put into supplement. So if you look at Centrum once a day, the first ingredient is always vitamin A, which if you ever see that, it's probably not a good supplement. Again, whole food means that the raw materials used to make the supplement came from plant or animal based. There are a few companies that I like. If we ever go to a People's Pharmacy, they have plenty of options. The company that I like, we have here in our office called Standard Process. That's what I take. That's what my family takes. That's the one I recommend. But there are others out there. 1 out of 3 meals where you're going to start eating, where you're not going to have animal protein. So if you're a big meat and potato guy, all right, or a person that you have to have meat with every meal, I mean, this is going to be really tough for you, but you really want to get down to just 1 meal a day that you're having animal protein, all right? So we want to get to 1 meal a day where we're just eating meat. And you ever hear of the paleo diet? I mean, this is really what this is, some of the philosophy of this type of eating comes from, but we're really getting back to the hunting and gathering type of lifestyle. So here are some suggestions to follow phase 1, all right? Smoothies, I'm a big proponent of, whole oats, and eggs. White eggs, I mean the egg white is a really, really good source of lean protein. Usually for lunch, salads are really good, smoothie if you need to. I always eat salad with meat on it, you know, if it's chicken or fish. And at the end of the day, I usually always eat about 2 salads a day, usually for lunch and dinner. And I usually always have animal protein during my lunch salad, all right? A lot of people you also be careful about the calories that you take in, the stuff you add to your food, the condiments, you know, spreads, sauces, things like that. And the snacks that we eat, just tons of calories, especially if it's processed. The salt, sodium, things like that, all right? What you drink, try to always drink water with your meal, if you can, all right? I mean, that is probably the best thing you can do. Who here grew up with drinking milk with their meal? Anyone? No? Okay. Yeah. So if you have kids, I mean, I would if you're going to do that, I would choose either almond milk, rice milk, hemp milk. All right, all those are better choices than dairy milk. Okay, so phase 2, we're going to start reducing the bad stuff. Right now, that you start eating the good stuff. All right, we want to get rid of the acidic stuff. All right, so the coffee for most people is where most of us what we wake up with is very acidic. So who here drinks more than 1 cup of coffee a day? Let's define what 1 cup is. What do you think? How many ounces is a cup? A cup?
8 ounces.
No.
10?
6 ounces.
10 it is.
Dr. Ross, I only drink 1 cup a day.
32.
6 ounces is considered a normal cup. All right. So some of you, like you say you drink 1 cup of coffee, but it's anywhere between 8 to 12 ounces. You know, which is virtually 2 cups of coffee. All right. Now, if you drink 1 cup of coffee a day, it's not the end of the world. I drink 1 cup of coffee a day, but some of you drink coffee all day long. All right, and that's what dehydrates you. Plus, it's very, very acidic. So, refined carbohydrates. These are pasta, breads, and cereals. The animal protein. Really try to get to only 3 times a week, 2 possibly, where you're only having animal protein. If you can eliminate the red meat entirely, that is the best. And then reducing dairy. These are the cheeses, the creams, ice cream, milk, all right, dairy milk. Phase 3 is when we're completely eliminating the bad stuff. We're getting to the purity stage, all right, where we're trying to get really pure with our diet, all right. And I'd say, Tess, this is part where you're at, is that because your diet is, I mean, just by, you know, because I know you and I know how you eat. This is where you get really, really pure. You're buying, obviously, a lot of raw food, organic food, plant-based food. You're eliminating the red meat, all right. You're only eating lean proteins maybe once or twice a week now. Fish or chicken, all right. You're not, the dairy is completely gone. The coffee, sodas, alcohol are completely gone, all right. Now, do you think you need to be perfect all the time? No, you can have, you know, there can be some, you know, cheat days or cheat meals, absolutely. But again, the majority of what you're trying to do is to abide by a paleo-style diet, more plant-based, more alkaline. And then this is where you really start to see the results if you start testing your pH level during this process. Every month, start testing your pH and watch the alkalinity increase. all right? When you get to over 7.3, all right, I mean, when you get it to 7.3, you're slightly alkaline, all right, not only will you have more energy, your skin color will look better, all right, your allergies will decrease, your immune system will be better, but you'll notice that naturally that you'll start to shed weight, all right? Remember we talked about the equation of your BMI where you need to be? All right? That's what your target is, all right? You keep following again, this is a process, right? You'll start to notice the transformation happen. Now, let's talk about how many calories should you intake, all right? Do you think in our culture, when we showed from 1988 to 2016 from the CDC, do you think as a culture that we're burning more calories or less calories? Less calories. So as a culture, do you think we should be intaking less calories?
Right.
All right. And then as we age, does our metabolic rate increase or decrease?
Decrease.
So as our culture, plus dictated by our genetics, do you think we should be decreasing our caloric intake as we age? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we should be decreasing it, all right?
Oh, I thought you said increase. Sorry.
So, the average person now, okay, we're not talking about any specific cases, but average person, sufficiency is between 1,200 to 1,500 calories a day. All right, does anyone here know approximately what your caloric intake is per day? Do you think you're in that range above or below?
It's below.
Below?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, mine is below.
Okay,
It's
so
less than 1250,
less than 1,250?
yeah.
That's good.
Yay.
Okay, here it is. So, if we were to, this is how you figure it out. For every kilogram that you weigh, right, metric system, I know. I grew up in Canada, so we're in, not imperial. 2.21 pounds in every kilo, all right? So if you, for the average person, 25 calories for every kilogram, right? That works out to be like 11.3 calories per pound. All right? You multiply your weight, this is where the math comes in, by 11.3, or if you know your weight in kilograms, all right? Then you say, okay, then you figure out your BMI and how much weight you need to reduce, right? Now remember, every 50 calories, you reduce your weight by how much over the course of a year, every day? It's 10 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you calculate your ideal weight. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everyone with me on that? All right. So if you want to get to your ideal weight, you start subtracting by 50s from what your caloric intake is. But obviously you need to know what you're doing now. All right. You need to have a food log and just average the caloric intake over 3 days. Is a good, I mean, if you can do it longer, it's more accurate, but 3 days is enough. All right. And you want to know what your average caloric intake is per day now. All right. Does that make sense? Okay, let's add in the exercise component. All right. So, for every day, you know, depending on where you're at in exercise, but let's just say average of 30 minutes a day. All right, of walking, plus your normal walking that you should just from naturally from getting up, going to work, all that. Hopefully, you're getting in about 10,000 steps a day, right? 3 miles a day. You'll lose, on average, about 18 pounds over a year. Okay? So if you just walk 10,000 steps a day, reduce your caloric intake by 50 calories every single day. By the end of the year, how many pounds have you lost?
28.
Over the course of a year, right? Again, averages, right? The older you are, the smaller the numbers, because your metabolic rate is slower. The younger you are, the faster the numbers are. But it's just a good guideline to go by. Okay? All right. How you split up the exercise in terms of from, basic to more advanced is that you should at least be doing the cardio training at least 3 to 5 times a day. This is a 30 minutes of any type of cycling, elliptical, non-load bearing, stair climber, swimming, at least 30 minutes, 3 to 5 times a day. At least twice a week, 2 to 3 times a week, that you're doing some sort of resistance training. All right? Especially women, postmenopausal, this is important because this helps with bone density. All right? But give me some easy ways to do resistance training. What do you think you can do?
Go go for a walk with dogs pulling you and you're holding them back.
That is a form, but just having resistant bands. Resistant bands are easy way because you can do them in your home. All right, and when you come to the Train Smart Not Hard class, we go through this. You know, basic stuff you can do at home for resistance training, and then the more advanced stuff is when you get into core stability work. All right, doing resistance training on a body ball. Right, and that gets a little more advanced. All right, we're in a chiropractic office. We want to keep your spine healthy through this whole process, so obviously we're going to get you to get adjusted regularly. All right.
Yay.
So I will stay for questions. Again, there is in your packet, you'll see the meal planning for like recipes that follow this plan in terms of the different phases. There is a shopping list in there. Who here heard of perimeter shopping? Has everyone heard of that before? Why is it called perimeter shopping?
Because the healthy food is around the edge of the grocery store.
Yes. Perimeter shopping.
Go around
If you're spending majority of your time perimeter shopping, you're probably eating more live food. If you find yourself shopping in the aisles more than you're shopping the perimeter, you're probably buying junk food. All right? And when you look at your cart as you go to the checkout and you see more boxes than bags of produce, most likely you're eating an inflammatory diet. All right? All right, so most of the foods that you see on there are perimeter shopping items. All right, where live food is refrigerated foods, things like that. Okay? I'll stay for questions. Does anyone have questions? Or if you guys are pretty good. Thank you.